Welcome to Harry's Hook. Tszyu versus Sebastian Fundora is a case in point, proving the Larry Merchant quote that boxing is the theater of the unexpected. In today's video, I'm going to provide a bit of a synopsis of what happened, talk about what we learned about both Sebastian Fundora and Tszyu, share some overall thoughts about the fight, how much credit each boxer deserves for their respective performances, and tell you what I want to see next. We saw a bit of a tentative early start from both boxers, Fundora pawing and putting out his jab, Tszyu level changing, dialing up his range. Tim did start finding his timing and distance toward the end of round 1, did a nice job using his lead hand to minimize Fundora's jab, and did wind up catching him with a good straight right as he was turning him. Round 2 came the turning point. Tszyu was flashing some good defensive parries, pulls, a few slips. He was gaining the outside foot position and more consistently landing his straight rights and overhands. Tszyu was outboxing Fundora, he was in control, and by the end of the round, we saw that Fundora had a really bloodied mouth and nose. But we also noticed that Tszyu had started streaming blood from the top of his head as he went to his corner. Turns out he got caught by Fundora's elbow as he was moving in for a sequence. Kind of a freak incident, but that elbow caused a gnarly, deep gash on the top of his head, and it was a bloody faucet the entire night. Between the second and third round, the doctor checked on the cut. He did seem concerned, but let the fight continue, and I gotta tell you, the start of the third round, Tszyu's demeanor looked different to me. He came out fighting with more urgency, even a bit of recklessness. He started getting caught, and then getting a bit tentative. For the rest of the fight, he looked like Carrie on prom night, just needed a wig and a dress. Or like the Crazy 88s from Kill Bill, as Uma Thurman, Beatrix Kiddo, was chopping, slicing, and dicing. Can't forget, Fundora was bleeding from his mouth and nose practically the whole night. The entire thing was a bloodbath. It was gore fetish. The blood was flowing into Tszyu's eyes the rest of the rounds, and it clearly bothered him. I think it really affected his ability to contend in that all-important lead hand battle. It compromised his vision, and he had to keep wiping the blood away while Fundora was firing jabs and taking control. It's a shame, but I think Tszyu's corner really let him down. They just couldn't mitigate the bleeding at any point in the fight. The commentators were even suggesting that they didn't have the right meds. I don't know if that's true, I wasn't there, but I do know that that blood just really didn't stop. But despite the fact that I believe the cut had a tangible impact on the fight, Fundora deserves a ton of credit. Before the fight, I talked about the fact that Fundora doesn't use his jab, that he really likes to fight on the inside, and that a good jab would be helpful against Tszyu. Yet, as I said in my preview and prediction, Fundora pumping out a ton of jabs and utilizing his range and his reach would be Fundora completely flipping his style. And to his immense credit, that's exactly what he did. He peppered Tszyu with jabs and lefts and actually used his reach and length all night long. And that's what further dials up just how impressed I am. The fact that he displayed the discipline to execute that game plan the entire evening. He's always had the physical gifts to pull off this style. But I was not going to assume that he would make such a huge shift successfully in just 1 year, which was the last time that he fought when he was knocked out by Brian Mendoza. What we learned is that Fundora can do it, that he can outbox you, he can use his frame and his length and his reach and execute a disciplined outboxing game plan. I had to see it to believe it, and the other night, I saw it. And boy was I impressed. Fundora earned that title. He is the champion. Again, theater of the unexpected. Keith Thurman pulls out of the fight on 12 days' notice. Sebastian Fundora, a 6'6" southpaw, steps in to replace him. Credit to Tszyu for not just taking a tomato can. And then, round 2, a freak cut changes the dynamic of the fight, and Fundora pulls a complete 180 on his style. Tszyu's Vegas debut turned into a bit of a horror show for the Aussie. But this is the kind of stuff that makes boxing boxing. It's a tough break for Tszyu because I thought he was off to a solid start, and to my eye, his punches appeared to affect Fundora more than vice versa. And then, a freak incident happens early in the fight and changes things. But boxing is full of adversity, and you have to be able to adapt and overcome. Tszyu displayed tremendous heart and guts to fight through it all. He didn't look for a way out and made no excuses. I suspected that Tszyu was a true warrior, but I learned it the other night. And I gotta say, I loved the grace and humility that he took that loss with. But there were areas to improve, and while he was able to close the distance at times, he did not work enough on the inside. Alright, let's talk about what's next. But first, if you enjoyed this content, do me a solid, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. I appreciate your support. They had Errol Spence hop in the ring after the fight to tease a potential Spence versus Fundora bout. Two high-volume southpaws going at it, that's pretty cool. The WBO apparently ordered Fundora to defend his title against Terrence Crawford. That could be fun, but I want to see a rematch. Besides body fluids, I think there's a lot of unfinished business left in that ring. Fundora proved to me that he has the ability to beat Tszyu, cut or no cut. But I do believe that the dynamic of that fight shifted, and that Tszyu deserves another shot, considering all that's happened. And that right there is Harry's hook. On the screen is my preview and prediction for Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia, another title fight on April 20th. Check it out. I'll see you there.